Two brothers from the United States make their way back to their roots here in El Salvador to live out the dream. That's the topic of our show today. We got the Martinez brothers in the house. Welcome, everybody. My name is Michael Ruiz.
I'm Jordan Herbs.
I'm
And-
Jose Martinez.
And I'm Kevin Martinez.
Awesome. And I guess what? You know what? We're all entrepreneurs over here building in El Salvador. And today we got a fantastic show. We're going to go over the Martinez brothers' story here, what they're doing over here in El Salvador. And what else, Jordan? What else we got?
Well, what are you guys doing in El Salvador? I know you have the Azteca restaurant. It's like Mexican food restaurant. I went to a meetup there, my first Bitcoin meetup. That's the only time I've been there.
Okay.
What else you guys got going on?
We have Hotel Martinez. That was our first project here in the country. Started that when I was 19. My brother was 16.
Wow.
So we have a hotel on the east side of the country. It's on its way to Bitcoin City, Surf City 2, on the world-class Point Break for surfing, Playa La Flores, near Punta Mango. So that's what's going around the hotel. It's definitely up and coming. It's developing. And we have a hotel there and been building that for the last 3 years.
Now, how old are you guys?
I'm 23.
And I'm 20. What?
Incredible. I wasn't thinking anywhere along those lines at that age. That's incredible.
Where did your experience, or did you have entrepreneurial ambitions when you were younger? Like you said, at 16 you started that?
I was 19. My brother was 16. I think the way that life has put us through different stages has brought us to this point. We could have never imagined to be in this position. It's kind of a trip to hear the introduction and people to be able to hear our story, because I mean, we grew up in a single family home, with a lot of needs and scare, more so on the mentality side of things, right? Of a scarcity mindset, family that had just immigrated to the United States. So there wasn't much ambition. There wasn't a search for truth, for meaning, for purpose. None of this has been a monetary pursuit. It's all been to be a better me, a better us, and how we can positively impact the community and people that surround us and leave a legacy. I think a big word for us was transcend. With our father, we've worked hand in hand. We started this process around 6 years ago, and it really started with just being a better person and preparing ourselves to be a good man. That was our intention, and the entrepreneurial side of things kind of just caught up to us, and now it goes hand in hand with our personal development, with our spiritual development, and our self-awareness. And I think that's definitely been the pinpoint of the growth that we've been able to have, and it's materialized into physical and material achievements, but we definitely focus on the interior, being a better us every single day, getting to know ourselves better, and that just the interior work that you do reflects on the exterior world.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well said.
Well, I think one of the things that I've learned through entrepreneurship is that it's really, it's a personal development vehicle, right? It's a way to work on yourself because you're really getting out of your comfort zone and you're pushing yourself to your limits. And then that requires, a different mindset. It requires resiliency. It requires discipline. It requires all these aspects where you have to become a better person, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. And I mean, the story goes back to when I was 10 years old. I was mowing lawns in Texas, doing roofing, cleaning pools, irrigation. Trailer homes are set on cinder blocks, so I was carrying cinder blocks around all day. So I've been grinding, I've been hustling, and I would be mowing lawns, and I'd kind of be thinking to myself, like, hey, I can't be doing this the rest of my life. There's nothing wrong with it, but where does the development come in? Like, where does the growth begin to happen, right? And I was 14, 15 at the time, but college wasn't always, the educational traditional system, especially in the United States, wasn't always appealing to me. I didn't fit in with it. I couldn't force myself to abide by the rules and the system in place. It felt like at the time, it's really hard whenever you're a young boy, and you just feel this rebellion and you feel like you don't belong. And especially, I went to like 4 different high schools, 5 different elementary schools, like moved around a lot. So I think that gives you some culture shock that you're kind of like, hey, what's normal? What's not normal? Where do I belong? Where do I not belong? Do I need to belong somewhere? What happens if I don't belong? Like all those different things put me in scenarios that I search for something, right? So the traditional educational system, I barely graduated high school, had to go to summer school to graduate high school, started college, and still felt that resistance of not finding passion. So I think that that's really what I intended to search for my whole life, but never did a teacher sit down and try to understand what it was that I was searching for. Or it's until my dad, I told him, hey, like I don't like school. I don't feel like it's taking me where I need to go. And at the end of the day, I'm going to graduate and be in debt and then come out and then what, search for a job and retire when I'm 65 and then be happy off of 401k. Like that just didn't sound right to me. I felt like there was something out there that we could search for, that we could find, but there would be some risk to it, but our parents have held our back and fully supported us in this process, and that's been key to us being able to just jump into the void and have the love of our parents that helps us and guides us every single day.
That's really cool. I have a very similar story with my upbringing in the sense that I knew there was something more. I didn't want to follow that traditional path. But for me, entrepreneurship was never on my radar. Starting businesses, I didn't really care about making money, and I think that's because I had a different family background than yourselves,
Mhm.
also from Southern California,
Yeah.
and I just went traveling instead. That was my way of jumping in the void. I was like, I don't want to. I don't even want to know where I'm going to sleep tonight.
Right.
I just want to have trust, surrender myself to God, to the universe, and find the strength inside of myself to be able to do it. And so now I'm coming full circle. I did all that. And then now I'm coming back to, sounds like where you were at 19 years old. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, now through entrepreneurship, the internal journey lessons can start materializing in my external reality.
Yeah, I think everyone here's, sitting at his table is kind of similar story. You just kind of look at the path that's put in front of you by uh, mainstream culture and society, and you're like, you start to realize pretty early on that, hey, man, this feels like, like a little bit of a scam, a little bit, like you said, I got to go to school, I got to get in all this debt. Then when I get out of school, I got to go find a job to pay back the debt. And it just feels like a big rat race. And that's also something that I realized early on, in addition to learning how the money works, and that I was like, you know what? I have to find a different path. There was also the 5 hour work week, right? That came out where it was just a different way of thinking.
I think it was the 4 hour work week.
4 hour
Tim
work week?
Ferriss.
Yeah.
Yeah. A short amount of hours work week.
Yeah. And so, so that also helped me with my mindset where I was like, oh, I don't have to, go the traditional route, that there's other options available for me to be successful as well. And so, yeah, I started pursuing those avenues as well. And it sounds like that's kind of what you did as well, right?
Yeah, and back to the first question, due to the experience, I mean, our mother was the janitor at the school where we went, so
Mhm.
that's kind of like where we started. And I would observe around me, and I had friends like driving BMWs at 15 and like wrecking that car and getting a new one. And my
Oh,
mom could barely pay off like a Nissan Sentra that was like 13 grand at the time. And I mean, it was just like asking myself, what is it that we don't know? What is it that my family hasn't done, that they haven't applied in our lives, that we're in this situation? Because I at some point realized that it was a result of something, right? Like it was the final equation of a lot of different things summed up. So I was like, how can I change those things? How can I find those things? But the transitioning point for us was whenever I did find what it was that my passion was, and that was at the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills in Los Angeles. I started there as a busboy, and finding tourism and hospitality, and especially the brand Four Seasons, is what completely changed my mindset and put me on a passion trip. I mean, I would work there 16 hours a day, 17 hours a day, not worried about the money, never worried about the money, but just being there and the vibe and providing that 5-star hospitality and service to people from all over the world. We would have the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, all kinds of celebrities, baseball teams, basketball teams, soccer teams coming by. And it really allowed me to see into another world, and that's kind of what I searched for as a kid, to be able to see all these different possibilities and people living a different way. And it really put things into perspective to me, and see the amount of work that it required to be successful. So I think that that's been important for us, because at our young age, it's not always simple to, sacrifice and be all in on your mission, on your plan, and on your objective, right? But I mean, we're all in. We're 24/7, 365. Christmas we're working, New Year's we're working, Easter we're working, Thanksgiving we're working, any day
So
we're
where
working.
did this work ethic come from, do you think?
I think it comes from not having the things we wanted to have as a kid, and seeing our mom struggle, seeing the scarcity that we had. It definitely built a mental fortitude that we would talk about it as kids. Like, hey, when we're older, we have to work hard to do this. We have to work hard for mom to be able to retire her. We have to work hard for all the things dad has done for us. So and we continue. I mean, this is beyond ourselves. I think we're just an instrument that God is using to bless a lot of people around us, and create employment. We have 15 employees now between the hotel and Azteca, and I could have never imagined that. So I think giving to the world without waiting for anything in return is definitely where the most abundance comes from, because the less you need, the more happy you'll be.
So we got really deep really fast. I think it's a good time to rewind a bit and talk about your parents' history, about their emigration from El Salvador to California. But first, I just got to ask, because we're here in El Salvador, are you guys Bitcoiners?
Yes, we are.
You are?
Absolutely. So we actually prefer Bitcoin at Hotel Martinez and Azteca.
Okay, cool. And are you going to adopting Bitcoin in 2024?
Yes, we will. And manifesting it, we hope to be speaking at Adopting Bitcoin.
Okay,
2024.
awesome. For anyone listening to the show, use Sav Studios as a discount code, a promo code, Sav Studios, and get a 10% discount. Adopting Bitcoin is the high signal conference happening in El Salvador. It's, from what I understand, mainly builders. It's people actually doing stuff in the Bitcoin space. It's not like Bitcoin 2024 Nashville with politicians and stuff. No, it's people that are actually dedicating, committed to getting a Bitcoin standard going in the world. So
Building out the circular economy.
exactly. So use promo code SOV Studios for a 10% discount. We hope to see you there in November.
And we're going to manifest you speaking there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, man, that's excellent. Okay, so your parents, Salvadoreños.
Yes.
Yes. And then when did they leave El Salvador?
My dad went to the States around 32 years ago, 30 years. So I was like 1992.
And then what was the climate like here?
So there
At that
was, I
time.
mean, it was during the war, a lot of economic scarcity, a lot of violence, and for a young boy at 19, I think my father had that same intrigue, that same curiosity to the world and to what it required to be exceptional, to be great. But seeing all the conditions around him, especially in a country that was in a civil war, he just couldn't find a way here. He couldn't find a path. And I think that all those things led to a lot of broken families here in El Salvador, led to a lot of personal issues. I mean, it's hard to thrive as a person whenever the political scenario or the country scenario isn't right. So he grew up in a troubled home and with those conditions, trying to find a way. And the best thing that he could come up with was to go north and go to live the American dream. And 30 years later, his two boys come to El Salvador to search for the Salvadoran dream.
To come back. So I'm always curious, how did he get there?
So that's a crazy story.
Yeah,
man.
normally
I
it
hope you guys,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
I hope you guys can have him on the pod one day,
Yeah.
because I mean, he had $0 in his pocket whenever he decided to go. All he had was a pack of cigarettes, and the only pair of shoes that he had was a pair of soldier boots that he was like gifted. So he's a 19-year-old boy, no technology, no map, only has heard of what Mexico is, what the US is. There's only like a mental picture, but it's all based off of an illusion, really, because you hear all these things that it's the like home of opportunities, of abundance, and you're in El Salvador that's in war, so it's like, wow, that sounds amazing, right? So he took off on a 3-month journey. He walked his way through Mexico, catching rides, hitchhiking.
Wow.
I mean, essentially what a backpacker does. He was on a survival scenario,
With
so
nothing.
with nothing. So working his way through, and I mean, when he was here, he was, I mean, didn't know much about the world. He didn't go beyond his like neighborhood, from the soccer field back home to school to the soccer field back home. So
Wait, I might have missed this. Was he trying to escape something? Or
he
he's just searching for a better life?
just searching for a better life. He was just searching for a better life, and I mean, essentially escaping a war, right? A civil war,
Yeah,
and
violence
violence and everything that was happening here in El Salvador during the time. So during that time, you had a lot of families that were broken up, and his was one of those. And he was actually raising his two younger siblings. So my dad was like 12 whenever his parents left. So essentially, he raised himself from 12 years old up until 19,
The
raising.
parents left
Yeah, like both of them went to the States, and they just thought that was a better option
without their kids?
without their kids. Yeah, and they left them here alone at the house, and they essentially raised themselves with like some neighbor supervision, but that's really nothing.
How old was your dad?
My dad was 12,
Wow.
Yeah.
And his siblings?
like 8 and 9, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, two kids, but he walked through Mexico, he got attacked by dogs, so many crazy stories that he has to share from that experience. And then he gets to the United States, but you get to this land of opportunities, but I think a lot of people can resonate. You lack a lot of knowledge, you lack a lot of direction, guidance. So it's easy to get caught up in the wrong things and get caught up in the system, right? I mean, the system is an expert at bringing people in and making you a part of the system, and it's essentially not living but surviving. Just for a roof over your head, for food on your plate, and that's about it. So I mean, he spent around 3 decades doing that, and it's not until he decided to go on his inward journey into his self-awareness, conocimiento propio in Spanish, that was the pivotal point. He was like, all right, guys, like I've done a lot of things wrong in life, so I can tell you where not to go, what path not to take. So if you guys just listen and trust that what I'm saying and that what I'm telling you is for your own good, means he's like, there's nobody else in this world that's gonna love you as much as I do, and that wants no other man is going to want you to do better than they are, but me, your dad. So just trust me, and if you guys listen, you guys will get far. He was like, you guys will get far. He's like, I know I don't have the experience to show for it. I don't have this to show for it, but I know exactly what not to do, so I can take you through where the path is. So we've just worked on that, and it's a daily communication, a daily progression of hard work, of being better every single day. I mean, it's not easy, it's not simple, but it's day by day, day by day, and stay aware, stay conscious.
That's incredible.
So he jumped into the unknown.
He jumped into the
He
unknown,
was
and
the first.
it seems that God was like, hey, you know what? Maybe it wasn't up for you to do in your lifetime, but you need to make sure that your sons.
It's
Wow.
a similar story to me, and I know there's a lot of people with a similar story where, so my dad is from Honduras, and he went to America for a better life, right? He went to Miami, in search of more opportunity, the American dream. He was the first one to go. I think I don't know at what age, maybe 16, and then the rest of his family followed. But he worked. He worked when he got here. He lived in a car, and found a way to wash dishes at a hotel, then found a way to get into college, and just worked his way to the top as much as he could, and created a life for himself and for his kids and his family. And so, and now, it's ironic, but here his son is back, in the same area,
Mhm.
Honduras, a bordering country to El Salvador, looking for his own opportunity, looking for the American dream, but here in El Salvador, right? And so it's
Absolutely.
it's a it's a full circle kind of thing, and it sounds like similar for you.
It is. It is. I mean, for my dad to be able to, we still live in the same house where he grew up. So my grandmother worked really hard in the States to kind of make the house pretty, make it comfortable. And nobody ever came to the house because, I mean, it was dangerous here. That we came for the first time whenever we purchased a hotel in 2020. So it's awesome to be in that same position, in those same sidewalks where my dad was walking, at the same soccer field where he would play as a kid, and to see that full circle moment. And he hasn't even been able to come to the country yet to see it for himself, and feel it out. It's all through FaceTime, like you guys saw at the beginning of this, and that's how he celebrates our wins, and I think that's how he demonstrates his love to us is, he doesn't really get any benefit from it, like tangible benefit, but he knows that we're happy, that
Oh,
we're
I'm sure he's
fulfilled,
proud
and
of you
and
guys.
he's very proud, and that fuels him.
Now, can I ask you what was the deciding factor for you guys to come to El Salvador? Like, why El Salvador?
So I was working at the hotel during that time. I started as a busboy. I was a pool attendant. I was a server. I did concierge, front desk, lobby attendant, valet. I loved the hotel. I loved hospitality, and I got furloughed from my job during the pandemic. And that during the time I was already searching for financial freedom. I was searching for how I could do something that I liked and enjoy my time here. I didn't want to be slaved away at a job, and just give somebody my time. I thought that was the most precious asset we have. So I was looking into like Rich Dad Poor Dad. That really helped me a lot to see what was good debt, bad debt, and be able to forge my own path. And I was looking into real estate in Los Angeles, but those numbers out there, I mean, I'm sure are outrageous. So I was like, geez, like, hey dad, like my family's always lived in an apartment, right? Like we've always rented an apartment. And I was like, hey, instead of renting an apartment, what if we like buy a duplex, rent one out for ourselves, and then the other one rent it out to somebody else, and then the mortgage can essentially pay itself off, right? And he was like, "Hey, that sounds like a good idea. Like, let's look into it." So I was talking to real estate agents in LA and just getting a little bit of knowledge on it. But that's whenever El Salvador started changing. So that was like 2019. Nayib Bukele had just became president, and my dad had completely forgotten about what it meant to be Salvadoran, about his identity, about his culture. I mean, in LA, it was almost shameful to be Salvadoran. It was like the bottom of the chamber, to say you were Salvadoran. People automatically labeled you as dangerous or he may be violent, and maybe you had nothing to do with it. But the fact that it was the most deadliest nation in the world, that kind of got pushed on to all the citizens around the world. So people were like, "Oh, where are you from?" They're like, "Oh, I'm from El Salvador." So that's where he comes from. And he felt very proud seeing Nayib Bukele, seeing that it was a president that had a different message and had an aura to him that really projected transparency, projected truth, projected fresh air of being able to build a new society. And that's exactly what I took from it. I was like, hey, El Salvador, if you translate that to English, it means the savior. And then the national monument is the savior of the world. So what does that mean? Like, why do all of these things line up? And it just seemed like the perfect comeback story. But at the time, since I was looking for real estate, one day I had gotten furloughed from my job. It was like 4 a.m. Me and my brother were just hanging out, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna type in El Salvador real estate." I typed in El Salvador real estate, and then the first thing that came up was the hotel. It said Las Flores Hotel for sale. It had this video that I'll never forget. I probably watched it like a million times, of like the hotel, the property, the wave, the beach there, and I was like, "Wow, what is this?" And it said like investment opportunity. And I didn't even know what the word investment meant. Like I was just coming into hearing all these new possibilities. I mean, my family always worked for minimum wage. That's all we knew, and struggle was all we knew. So seeing investment opportunity, I was like, I have to go show my dad. And it's like 4:30 a.m. So he's sleeping. I run to his room and I'm like, Dad, look at what I found. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm going back to bed. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait till like 6 a.m. I told my brother. My brother was just like looking at me like, whoa, like what's going on? And then it gets 6 a.m. I wake my dad up and I'm like, Dad, like look at this. And I was like, what if we invest in El Salvador? And he was like, yeah, like let's. I mean, this is with zero money. I mean, we had no capital, no experience, hadn't even been to the country, zero, ground zero. So I like got more information on the property. The airport was closed at the time, so you couldn't travel to El Salvador.
Was
So
this during COVID?
that was during COVID. So
Yeah.
I found the hotel online like March, and then came to El Salvador for the first time in September 2020. That was the first time we came back to our roots.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you both came together?
We came together the first time and stayed 9 months the first time. So I feel like a lot of people have that first effect of to where you're like, hey, like something's going on here. There's something here that I need to know. And I mean, going a little bit more into detail, the negotiation for the hotel wasn't that easy because I didn't have all the money the seller wanted. I didn't have the conditions. I mean, I showed up to the first meeting with him and he's like, hey, where's your dad? And I was like, no, it's me, right? Like I'm here to talk about the property. And I was 18, 19. So I had braces and like I just looked like a kid. But been through all that. And have many banks close the doors on our faces in LA, here in El Salvador. So I think that it's been a great story for us to go against all the odds. And
So you ended up acquiring that hotel?
yeah, we ended up acquiring that
Wow.
hotel. Yeah, we ended. It took like
So
a six
from
month
like
negotiation, but I mean, my dad. It was up to the point where I was here, and it was like 6 months already, 7 months, and we didn't hear anything back. Because the guy wanted all the money, and I only had a little bit. I mean, like I said, we started with zero, started to build up a little bit, build up, build up, build up. But he wanted it all, and he was like, "Hey, like I need the money," and I was like, "Yeah, like." Could you help me out? Like this would be huge in my story. I'd be forever grateful to you. I mean, just like almost begging him, to be that part in our story, that part of that pivotal point, that stepping stone that allowed us to enter a new path. And thankfully he did. And we're forever grateful.
Man, that's an incredible story when you have a vision and you're persistent and you battle through all the setbacks to still achieve what you wanted. That's great, man.
Yeah.
I love those stories.
So you guys came on a one way, obviously, and you were just like, "This is it. We're going to buy this hotel."
We came on
and
a
we're
two-way trip. We were supposed to stay for 3 weeks, but we stayed for 9 months.
okay.
Yeah. So we were like, you know what? The trip back and wait, and
Okay.
I was furloughed from my job, so I didn't have anything to go back to. So that's really what I mean, in this process, it's been like a domino effect. One thing has led to another, and without that first step, we wouldn't be able to be here. So I think it's been divine timing, and it's God's will, and we know it goes beyond ourselves, and we're just trying to be the best we can be to serve God as best as we can.
Yeah. It's funny. Jordan and I talk about this all the time. It just feels like doors are being opened for us in a way where, to deny it would be to deny God's will, right? A lot of this does feel divinely inspired.
Absolutely, and I think, I mean, just
El
this table here,
Salvador.
yeah, El
Yeah.
Salvador. I mean, it's crazy, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it leaves you thinking, and the fact that we have the opportunity to be here with you guys, and
Yeah, and that's the other amazing thing about El Salvador right now. The people that is attracting, like your energy is just contagious. Like I'm ready to just go build something now after talking to you
yeah.
guys, right? So yeah, and Kevin, what about you? So this is your brother. He comes to you with a crazy idea. Are you
Yeah.
on board, or did it take some convincing? What happened there?
Absolutely. I was on board from the start, It's been something that for my experience, being able to be guided from my dad and my brother, two people that have lived longer than I have. I'm only 20 years old, so what can I possibly know? So just trusting them, it's been what I've done, and be there to do what I have to do. It's something that, like we that were mentioning earlier, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, and a lot of sacrifices. So it's been something that you just got to be dedicated to, and trust them along the way, and just take one step at a time.
And have you been learning a lot on the journey?
Absolutely. I'm at 20 years old. I've been able to learn a lot from from my brother and from my dad, on a day-to-day basis, and I've been able, I mean, now I manage our social media for both businesses. I'm a bartender, and, there are a lot of things that I've been learning on the way.
He does a lot more than that. I mean, this guy has evolved like crazy. So for me, it's awesome. I mean, we grew up together, and with our mom, so we always stuck by each other and protected each other and loved each other. But to be able to do it together, I think is the most amazing part of the story. Because we decided that we wanted to do life together, and that there was no better way than to do it with our brother, who will have. I mean, I'll give my life for him, and he'll give his life for me. And I mean, he does all the digital media, the arts, he edits everything, he shoots everything, learning about accounting, about the legal work here, about establishing a company, about labor laws, about so many different aspects of managing an operation, that he's just too humble. But man, this
Mhm.
guy at 20 years old is killing it. And it's awesome to be able to see that, and to just throw ourselves into the lion's pit, and know that we're going to make mistakes along the way, that it's not always going to be easy, but that we decided that that's how we wanted to learn, just kind of get in there with the best boxer, and do your rounds, and you're going to get beat up, but you'll come out with a lot of experience.
I love hearing how young you guys were when you did this, and it goes back to this.
I mean, how young they are right now.
Well, still, yeah, but I mean, if you were 16, right? You were 19,
Yeah.
and it just goes back to the scam we were talking about earlier. And I guess we spend a lot of time in the entrepreneur space on Twitter and YouTube and whatnot, and we don't stop to think that most people still don't even get exposed to the idea that yes, you can just go start a business.
Right.
And Hormozy talks about it, like he could have gone to business school and got all this debt to learn how to start a business, or he could have just started a business and learned all the stuff he would have learned and not have to
Yeah.
pay the debt back later and actually make money. And you look at all the lessons, the life lessons, the challenges you go through that you get from it. And once again, you're this young and you've already gone through this much, and you've learned all of all of these hard knock lessons without having to go to school.
And I think it's that conditioning, seeing that you're being programmed. It sounds very conspiracy theory. It sounds very like
Well,
very movie like.
if you're gonna ask me, it's because it is.
Yeah.
it is a conspiracy.
Yeah. So I mean, I've believed that from the start, and I think that's really what allowed me to say, hey, like, you know what, I want to go a different route. I don't. I mean, if the multitude is going there, I should probably go the opposite way. So I think taking that decision is not easy, because we have this social conditioning that keeps us tied into the system. I mean, they've been doing it for decades, I mean, I don't know how long, but it's been so successful, and it's worked so well for them, that people criticize you whenever you're trying to break out from that, and be your own person and forge your own path.
Yeah, man. It's incredible for me. I'm older entrepreneur, 42 years old. And, I discovered a lot of these mindset principles, a lot of these personal development principles later on in life. And I couldn't believe that I had gone like my entire adult education without being told, certain concepts. And, I was almost shocked. So I spent a lot of time reading books, working on myself, literally disciplining myself every day, just trying to become better, 1% better every day. Losing a lot of bad habits that I had developed over the course of my life. This is why when you start early with good habits, I mean, it's such a head start because you don't have to go back and unlearn and yeah, just unlearn all the bad stuff you became acclimated to, right? And so that's what led me to become a coach because I'm like, man, if I went my whole life without learning these type of personal development principles, how many other people are the same way, and like how much potential is lost because of it? Like how many people are not, building that dream that they have because they just don't have the right mindset or the right attitude to go out and get it. And so yeah, that's one of the reasons that I went into coaching, is because I realized it. I started working on myself, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to teach other people to to go after their dreams, to create a vision, build the discipline, and take the actions to actually manifest a reality.
No, I love that. And, we've been able to see that there's a lot of kids our age, a lot of young men our age that search for the same things, but maybe didn't have the same conditions that we did to be able to jump into that void. But now we have the opportunity to bring friends on board and work together with us and show them, hey, we didn't go the traditional educational route. Like, you can come with us and see how we do things and see the process of learning that we're going through, so you can apply it to your own life and you can have your own success and you can find your own purpose and you can find your own passion. And we try to give that back, because we feel like it's not for us to keep. It's, if we were blessed with the opportunity, then it's our responsibility or duty to God to give back and be able to put others on and put them on their own path, that God has for them, but be that facilitator and letting them know that there is an alternate round. And what's so interesting is that you can't say, oh, it's like step by step, this is the way to do it. Everybody has their own way, and we all fight our own demons and we all have our own fortitudes. And with that, you have to come up with your own conclusion of life, right? And I think that's what's been taken away from us, is our ability to think for ourselves. I think it happens a lot in the schools, and kids, I mean, they wait for the teachers to grade them, they wait for their boss to give them a promotion. They, so many different social conditionings that we go through that we haven't noticed, and it's from like kindergarten, from pre-kinder, so it's hard for a child to break out of that. The most normal thing is for them not to be able to do it, but that's our mission now, is to be able to give back that and show people that there's another route.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just recently reflecting on how it took me 36 years. I'm 36. 36 years to learn how to properly set a goal and learn how to break it up into tasks and actually like work towards achieving a certain thing. Because for so long, I just wanted to be intuitive about what I did with my life. And I didn't really want to have like a set like vision for what I want to happen. I knew what I wanted to feel, and I knew how I wanted it to kind of like what I wanted to do along the way, but I never actually was capable of visualizing the goal and the path along the way. And so I wanted to say that a little bit earlier, but my mind is still just blown how young you guys are and everything you've already learned, how to reach this success and achievements. And now you're already looking at giving back to other young men. And I mean, that's God's work right there. That is how we change society. If we start developing these mindsets to where it's like, no, yes, you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it.
Right.
And here's the tools you need to do it. And it all starts within you.
Exactly. That you said it perfectly. And I think it's very important what you said, because we haven't seen the full vision yet. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what the final destination is, but we focus on today. If we take care of today and we do our best today, tomorrow I'll be good because I did the work today. And then tomorrow I'll look back on my past and be happy with what I did because I was doing the work necessary. So people ask us like, hey, like did you know you wanted to open a hotel and open a restaurant? And no, I never imagined that, never imagined that. It was all just, it's all been, take the first step and the second step will reveal itself,
Oh yeah.
and that divine timing that we've talked about. I mean, I think it's the same with the country, with El Salvador. I mean, it's hard to say exactly where it's going, but something beautiful is happening, and it's Godspeed, and I think we're all feeling that, we're seeing that, and we're all on the same frequency. So that group of people and that energy is so clear and so powerful and so pure that it can defeat any barrier. So I think that's what's going to take El Salvador from being the world's most violent country to being a reference for the world and an example. It already is.
This is the energy that you will experience over here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the magic of El Salvador. It's the people that it's attracting. It's builders. It's people with a positive outlook on life and visions of a brighter future and willing to put in the work to achieve it, right?
Yeah, and if you've ever been curious about El Salvador, wondering what the hype is all about, the first Bill in El Salvador Kickstart retreat is going off from September 5th to 9th, and there are spots still available. So check out sovereigntystudios.com/retreat and see if this could be for you. It's a great opportunity to meet people in our network, learn about what's going on here, get to know the landscape, see some sights. What else?
And just be around good company and good energy.
Yeah. So sovereigntystudios.com/retreat. One more question I had. I mean, probably many questions, but how does it feel? How do you guys feel to be in El Salvador? So if we're talking about the personal side of things, but how does it feel to be in El Salvador?
How do you feel?
It feels great, it feels great because of the way that the country has been evolving, and where it's going, where you actually enjoy every part of it. I mean, you get to have the full experience, and it gives you the opportunity to be able to grow alongside with it. I think that, I mean, for example, for me and my brother, our relationship and how we have been able to grow in El Salvador, it's something that no other place has offered to us. So it's an incredible place to be.
Do you think there's something you because you're Salvadorian? Do you feel like there's something that contributes to your experience with that, or you think anyone could feel that?
I think it's open to anybody to come and experience it for themselves. I mean, you guys are firsthand experience of that. But for us, it had a special meaning to be able to come back to our father's land and be able to give back, be able to build here, and it's kind of like a comeback story. Like, hey,
Mm.
like for me, it's been important, like for our ancestors. I feel like a lot of people don't think about their lineage and where they come from and who's going to come after you. But
Legacy.
the legacy for me, that was important. To show the world that, hey, we came back home to where there's less possibilities, where there's less economic abundance, and we made it happen here, and we want to give back here, and we're forever grateful for the United States. I mean, it definitely shaped us, it formed us into who we are, and there was a lot of positive sides from it, and we take that and leave what's bad behind. And
Mm.
I mean, every time
Wow.
we do go back to Los Angeles, I'm very happy to be here in El Salvador and to call this home. I'm like, hey, it's a beautiful place, but I think just politically and everything that's happened has just shifted the energy there. And I think that's what we all search for is good energy. We want to be at peace. We want to enjoy where we're at.
Yeah, man. I want to be around like-minded people. I want to be in a country that's forward-thinking, that has
Exactly.
a government that cares about the people, that enacts policies that are, you know, friendly to entrepreneurs, that create the fertile ground for, prosperity to grow. And this place feels like that's where it's going. That's where it is actually. Also, yeah, similar. Every time I touch down here, it's just like a sense of relief from flying in from the United States, where just I don't know, man. There's just something. There's a lot of pressure over there. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of tension happening. And when you're here, for me, it's just all of that goes away.
And I think it lacks God. And I
Yeah.
think in El Salvador, the pivotal point here and the emphasis point is God. So whenever God is the center of society and of everybody's vision, then you have a harmonious community. And I think especially for us, coming here to El Salvador and seeing that underdog story, I feel like for us, there's nothing more important than to speak to young men that grew up in the same conditions that we did. Maybe their parents immigrated to the States and they didn't find, I mean, a lot of people, it's like very few stories that you hear from people that immigrated and like flourished in the United States. But there's also a lot of families that did not. And it's just been a survival skill and they've forgotten about home. But that underdog story of El Salvador, the smallest country in the Americas, to be able to come back and forge this new path and be that example that inspired me. Like El Salvador in the macro and us in the micro, to be able to do that for our own family. And I think that that's been our spiritual. I mean, the president Nayib Bukele for me has been a huge spiritual leader without ever having said a word to him, but just living off of his example and how he does things and the energy he puts out into the world has really guided me to want to be like him and be able to have that impact of what he does for the Salvadoran society and for the world. I mean, bringing people from all over the world and connecting them here to build. I love that. And
I would
Yeah.
love to expand on that a little bit. What do you mean by what does it mean to be a spiritual leader? Like how Bukele is taking that role, in your opinion. What does that mean? I would love to just hear that explained a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first spiritual leader has been my father, and even if he's not with me here physically and in presence, he's always with me in energy and aura and in spirit, and that's where I mean, I just connect to his energy and attract his wisdom from him and put myself in his shoes and what would I do if my dad was here, or what would I do if what would my dad do in this situation? What would my dad tell me to do in this situation? And that's been huge for me because I don't go based off what I think. I would go based off of that. And same with the president Nayib Bukele. I always put myself in what would the president do, or what would be
Mm,
the best decision for everybody around you? Because I think it's
mm,
the easiest thing to do as a person is to be selfish and to think about your own benefit, to think about what benefit am I going to have right now in the present moment. It's really hard to think to be have forward thinking, and to make sure that everybody that surrounds you is good. And I think that's the definition
mm,
of love. If everybody that is around you is okay and that makes you okay, then you have love for humanity. You have love for society and for the Salvadoran community, like the president shows it. So I think
wow.
for me, it's just based off of that, and just seeing what he's been able to do and with the wisdom that he does it and the humility that he does it and how much fun he has doing it. It seems like, right? I mean, I've never spoken to him, but that definitely inspires me and it makes me want to be like him. And I think it's a world that's very short of good role models for young
Mm.
men and for people, So I think that I've been able to adopt him as a role model and somebody that I want to be like and aspire to create an impact like that.
You know, it's made me aware just how important strong leadership is. Prior to this, especially in the United States, where our leadership are corrupt politicians, who are basically selfish parasites. To see a leader like him emerge, who has strong conviction in God, right, and cares deeply for his people, and actually does the stuff that he says he's going to do, was an incredible breath of fresh air and very inspirational. And realizing how inspirational that is made me realize that, yeah, we need strong leaders to step up, right? And because it really moves other people to follow suit, right? They become an example for how we should live our lives. And so my whole thought process on having strong leadership at the top has changed because I realized just how impactful it can be for each individual and then society as a whole.
And I do believe that from El Salvador, a new society will arise. I think everything is lining up, and I think Bitcoin is pivotal in that. It really, I mean, follow the money, and you'll see where all the problems are. And with Bitcoin, you have perfect, sound money that will allow a new society to flourish because our current society is all based around the corrupt financial system, around fiat system. So I think El Salvador has all the conditions to create a new society. And I mean, I've heard Stacey Herbert say it a lot that it's going to be like Florence 2.0, the things that are going to happen here and that already are happening here. And I think it's also hard to be able to, I mean, you have 50 years of retrograde here in El Salvador, and you've had 5 years of his first term, right? So it's hard to be able to, I mean, progress 5 years after 50 years of
He's done a lot
difficulties.
though in that time, right? I feel like the last 5 years has been him setting the foundation,
Absolutely.
and now the next 5 years of his presidency is going to be building towards the future. That's the way I see it.
And you have like children in public school learning how to run their own node. You have them getting a full Bitcoin education, on the basics of things. So I think he's definitely planning for 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what is El Salvador going to be? And I think strong leadership empowers individuals to be strong individuals. And I think that's the most important thing, what we've been talking about, that mindset, that spirituality, that God-driven purpose is what's going to allow a country to flourish because it's I mean, I think you can have strong leadership, but one man can't do it all. You need the community, you need civilians to step up and forge their own path and be those transmit that message from the top. And I think he's doing a great job of that and having people think differently. I mean, Jiddu Krishnamurti has this saying like we've evolved so much on technology, food, medicine, all these different aspects of our material life, but we're still the same barbarians, with emotions that we have. So, and attitudes and behaviors. So I think those are the important things to be able to bring on to the next generation, to the children now, to let them know that there's a new way of life, and it starts within, and fixing within, then you're gonna have an amazing world. But if we're all inward driven and spirituality driven, then I think everything else would just be a result. But if we try to control the outer aspects, they're very important, obviously, like the economical things, but everything surges from how abundantly wealthy spiritually are you, you know?
It's one of the things that we focus on over here at Sovereignty Studios is really the bigger mission, the core, the what are our core values, what are the principles that drives us, what is the vision that we have for the future, and that it starts all from there. And a lot of that is you know, it's inspired, personally speaking, by being a faithful servant to God, to Jesus, for me. And so I think that if you have that at the core, and that's your orientation, right? Like, you can't help but create good fruit from that.
Absolutely. And I think I mean, a lot of the issue with religion has been having put God outside externally, into an image, into an idea, into a belief. But we bring God into the present moment, and I treat you like God would treat you. I mean, the golden rule, right? There's so many small little things that are repeated over time, but we don't fully grasp the importance of it. I mean, treat everybody like you would like to be treated, and that's God, right? That's
Hmm.
love. And if we give back, if we share, if we support, I mean, bring God into our daily life, into every aspect of how we live, and stay present, because so many times it's hard to stay present. I mean, our mind is going, especially now with the what's happening with social media and our attention spans. I mean, we can only focus. I mean, if you try to like think about an apple for a minute straight, it's hard to think just about an apple for a minute straight. Your mind will move on to other things, and take you away from the present. But coming back and being conscious, I think being a conscious society is what's going to give the best results, and it's going to lead and make empowered individuals, and that's how.
And I feel like that's a lot of what's going to make El Salvador different, right? Where you know, in the United States and then within the fiat paradigm itself, it's very selfishly oriented, where it's, cutthroat competition, stomp stomp the other person down as far as you can, in order to build yourself up. And over here, I feel like it's more of a collaborative, competitive space where it's like, when one person wins, we all win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And El Salvador is setting the conditions for people to come here and dream. And I think in the world, it became harder and harder to dream and to trust in your vision and to believe and have faith that you're capable of achieving things, And I think whenever you talk to somebody, the first thing they do is have a list of excuses, and you're like, hey,
Man,
if you would just forget about the excuses that you're trying to make and dedicate that time, energy, and into positivity, and into faith, into putting the first stone, and until it's going to be your castle, your foundation, then things would be a lot different. But it's that mentality shift, and it's not easy to do. But the more people that are preaching it and leading and guiding through example, I think the more contagious it'll be. And it's like a snowball effect. I mean, the more and more and more, and eventually it's going to be big. It's going to be big.
yeah, I realized, how important it is, for people to project positivity and also encourage, messages of encouragement, and be inspirational because of the impact it had on me. Especially during COVID, I was very like black pilled. Just looking at the way the world was going, I was like, man, what's the point of all this? It's like we're marching towards the edge of a cliff. But then seeing people even through COVID keep on striving towards their goals, keep on projecting positivity, like that kept me going. And so I was like, man, you know what? I need to stop projecting negativity. I need to change my mindset. I need to orient myself towards actually taking steps towards achieving big goals, becoming an example for other people to see. And if we all did that, imagine how we could change the state of society. And so that's what I've been focused on now, is just that, being a positive force out in the world. So, we do have a chance that this doesn't have to go off a cliff. We can change things around.
Right. And I think time is such an important aspect, especially for young men, to know that whether you do the work or don't do the work, time's going to go by, So it's either, do you want to walk with time, or do you want time to leave you behind, So I think that's important for everybody to keep in mind. And I think that really puts things into perspective, because so many times we're fooled with what we should be doing at our young age, or with what the most important thing at that moment is, So knowing that our time is limited and there's no tomorrow and all we have is now, it really allows you to dive into what you're doing and just start building, start building.
That's a perspective that I feel like is um, purposely driven out of the youth, right? So they waste their most productive years and can't actually have an impact the way you guys are having an impact, right? Think about just where you guys are at, at the ages of 20 and 23. Like how many other people, how many other young men can be doing the same thing, but have been told by society, by school, right, by their peers, by the music industry that hey, this is the time to party, to get wasted, to not do anything productive whatsoever, to live a hedonistic lifestyle. And think about how much productive energy just gets drained and siphoned from our world because of it.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, the way that I speak about the traditional educational system, I'm not in any way or fashion degrading anybody that chooses that route or decides to go that route. I think you can find success in any route that you take. It's a very personal decision. It's just that for us, it wasn't the best way for us to learn. We needed to learn another way, and there was so many different things that we needed to learn for what we wanted to do that it was impossible to just focus on one at the same time. But with the educational system that we've decided to create and forge, we've learned about so many different aspects that entrepreneurship teaches you, that it's been so important for us. And I think that it's important for everybody to not degrade your personal position in life or your current position in life, because I mean that's all you have, right? And like, you have to fully accept what you are, who you are, to be able to evolve into what you want to become and have a clear vision of what you want to become. But if there's no acceptance of self and who you currently are, then it's very difficult to progress from there because you don't have a solid foundation. But accepting and loving you as you are and knowing who you are and knowing your difficulties and knowing your strong traits is the best thing. And I think many times it's hard to hear somebody speak about their negative side, or hear, oh, maybe I'm a little envious, or maybe I'm a little bit hateful, or maybe sometimes um, many different aspects of the ego that are hard to accept and to talk into the world. And I think the more we talk about that and don't take ourselves too seriously and show the world that we're all human beings, we all go through the same things, and focusing on those things. I mean, the mind is funny because the more you observe it, and once it begins to feel observed, then it hides, and it convinces you to do something, and then it makes you feel bad about what it convinced you to do. So seeing the game that the mind is playing with you day to day, moment to moment, second to second, instant to instant, it really allows you to step back and take control of your life, because so many times we think we're in control, but it's just out of an egotistical standpoint, just always greedy. And
Yeah, one of the things that I've come to embrace is wearing my failures and my setbacks as a badge of honor, right? But it's only because I know that I've built up the fortitude, the resilience to not let that stop me from still moving forward. So many people just stop once they feel the first taste of rejection and of failure. But for me, I see that as like, stepping stones towards success. I just need to find a way to get through it, right? So now when I look back on things and I look back on things that happened in my past, which I thought were catastrophes, I look at it and I was like, wow, I grew so much from that. It was such a pivotal moment in my life and so necessary for me to go through that to be the man I am today. So it's kind of like what you were talking about, like embrace who you are, embrace what you've been through, because in a lot of ways, that's what's developed your character and that's what's brought you to who you are today,
Yeah, and I mean, without a story, then we have no foundation. So it's that story that we need to have pride in, and I mean, we're all humans. We all mess up. We all have mistakes, but feeling empowered and knowing where you come from and where you are and where you want to go, I think is the most important part. You can't forget about where you come from, but know where you are and where you want to go. It's like the Holy Trinity. You need to keep that all intact. But I think it's beautiful whenever you have that acceptance of yourself, and I mean that's just self love, right? I think self love recently and in recent times has been very commercialized and but it's so
watered
many
down.
watered down. It's so many internal aspects of what it really is, that if you follow like what mainstream media or what everybody is saying self-love is, it's like it's really not. Like, it's, you have to work hard, that'll make you feel good. You need to work out, that'll make you feel good. You need to like find joy in suffering, like and in sacrifice and in work and in sweating and in like that. Those are the things that make you who you are. And without all those difficulties, then it's really hard to be a good human being. Like there's no yin without the yang. You need the darkness to have the light.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got a hotel, you've got a restaurant. It sounds like next up you're going to write a book, or at least have a coaching program. No, but seriously, what's next on the list? Where are you going?
That's an interesting question. I mean, like we mentioned, when we started, we didn't have the end. I mean, we just thank God every single day that we're here. But we started with $0, and now we have investors, and now we're able to provide employment and be able to help other young men build their own future. So we're the present moment requires so much of our energy, our focus, and our attention that it's hard to think about what's next. But we're trusting God. We really do feel like we have a responsibility on our backs that we have to do, and God is watching us and is waiting to see what we do with the opportunity that He's gifted us. And we know there's no tomorrow, so we work hard today, and we just keep trusting God that tomorrow will take care of itself. But it'll be abundant.
So you're scanning for opportunities too? Is that one way to say that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think if I put my own limits, like I feel like God's limits are a lot better than what I can think for myself, because I would have never imagined being here. So I mean, I wanted to be a soccer player growing up, and it's like now we're here, and this is way more awesome than what I could have imagined. So I don't want to intervene with my ego on what the future holds. I rather let God's energy and that abundant energy flow and see what His purpose is for us. I mean, I think that wanting something out of selfishness or ego, we're trying to shy away from that and better understand what life is and what being a good person is and what being harmonious and living out of love. I think that's what we're most focused on. And I think the more we dive into that rabbit hole and the more we understand what we're talking about, the most positive impact will come out of the equation. So we're excited about where we're going. We know it's going to be a good place, and we know that we're going to be able to give back a lot, and there's going to be so much abundance that it's going to be for a lot of people. And seeing that abundance and being able to have that community and that society around us was going to be our number one fulfillment. And I mean, we live fulfilled. I think that's important because, like I said, there's no tomorrow. So if you don't live fulfilled today, you're always waiting for something tomorrow, and maybe today's your last day on this earth. So you're never going to get to that point. So we really enjoy what we do today. Having this conversation with you guys has been amazing, and it's so much to take in that it's hard to think about tomorrow. But that's where we're
Well,
at.
yeah, that's a very evolved perspective, and it's
Yeah,
a
these
great,
guys are wise.
yeah, and it was a great response to hear to my question too, because what a beautiful place to be in, where you don't even have to think about it or try to just be in the present every day, all the time, because you're busy, you got things going on, you're fulfilled, you're happy, you're content. And so when a new opportunity does come along, you'll know, okay, this is it, because it's not necessarily going to take you away from the present.
Exactly.
It's just going to flow on in.
Like,
And
I
it's
mean,
gonna
we
go,
were at
"Yep."
the hotel surfing every day, long hair, just a hat and board shorts. And that was our life. We were working there all day, every day. We didn't leave the hotel for like a year almost, just serving, enjoying the ocean, the waves, and making the hotel the best it could be. And then life was like, hey, like here's the next phase. So we're like,
Wow.
all right, we gotta go. We
Now
want to
you're here with the
surf.
slick back hair,
Yeah,
running a
that was
restaurant.
exactly.
So yeah, in a lot of ways, this is exactly what's going on with us. Like I feel fulfilled here. I've never felt this sense of fulfillment. I feel like I'm at the right place at the right time, doing the right things, than I've ever felt in my life. And there's a lot of opportunities that get brought to us, right? But not all of them are worth pursuing, or not all of them feel right for pursuing, right? But so I also put my faith in God that, hey, when the right opportunities present themselves that I should follow, I'll know. There's going to be that intuition there to guiding me to know that, hey, this is the path that I need to go.
And I think there's like my dad has always said something very important to me. Because sometimes, I mean, like I said, I'm still 23, so sometimes I want to take irrational decisions, or like sometimes I act like a 23-year-old, But he's like, if something is for you, even if you get out the way, it's for you. If something is not for you, even if you step in front of it, it's not meant for you, So
Wow.
we really
Super
we
wise.
live by that, and we just let it flow, and it's just like the wave, man. The waves will come, and we'll catch the best one,
Yeah, right. Otherwise, they'll float on past you.
Yeah.
Man, I could keep on talking for another hour.
Yeah, we got a community call starting soon.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
really?
already started. Yeah.
What time is it?
But let's see. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about or want to bring up here?
Thing I'm missing? No, I think, I mean, it's been awesome. And
Well, let's talk about then your restaurant.
okay.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Azteca Mexican Cuisine and Bar.
And where is it at?
It's in Colonia La Mascota near San Benito. So right in the hot spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of food is it?
So we actually brought a chef from Beverly Hills. He works at Sur Restaurant, works with Four Seasons as well. He's from Guanajuato, Mexico. So he brought all our recipes and the flavors, the authentic Mexican flavors. He works at Sur Restaurant. So Sur Restaurant has a celebrity show, a reality show called Vanderpump Rules on E! He's a good friend. I met him when I was a busboy. So that's a little bit of how the restaurant started at first.
Cool.
I mean, it just ties right back into what we were talking about. We didn't have the final image in place. You know, at first it was like, okay, like San Salvador is a good market. Like it seems vibrant. There's more people every day. And we felt that we could present the market with a distinct Mexican cuisine than what was currently here, what is currently here, you know? So one day I told my dad, like, we wanted to do like a small taco shop. It's funny, on our way here, me and my brother went by Plaza Malta. We were looking at like real estate that was like $1,000 and like, it was like small spots. And we were like, man, like, I feel like we could do more than this, you know? And just having that growth mindset, you see something and then you evolve it, and then you see something else and you're like, hey, I can make it better. And you're like, hey, I can make it better. Hey, I can make it better. So it's just knowing that you're going to apply yourself and focus in on that. And man, it just happens on its own, you know? But we brought Chef Nico in from Beverly Hills. He trained our staff and opened that steak. He really took us to the next level, because whenever I told my dad, I was like, hey, what if I text this chef? He was a good friend of mine. And my dad was like, well, what do you think we could like gain from him? Or not gain from him, but like, what could we like possibly do together? And I was like, I think a lot. This guy's like a quality chef, right? Like, we're not going to find anybody better. He's like, all right, do it. So I was like, hey, chef, like, I'm opening up a restaurant. I was wondering if you wanted to be a part of it and help me out, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, perfect. He's like, I can come by. And I was like, no, I actually live in El Salvador now. So it's going to be in El Salvador. He's like, El Salvador? And I was like, yeah, like, this is where I'm at. And he's like, all right, cool. We started talking. I went to LA. He presented us with some dishes. And I was like, wow, like, what just happened, you know? So that took us to a different level. And I mean, Azteca is just a passion project. It's respect to the Aztec culture. Our logo is the center of the Aztec calendar. So at first, we really admired the whole calendar, but it's really hard to make that a logo because there's so many little details. So we just focused in on the face. It's like sticking out its tongue, and we have it right outside our restaurant. I'm sure you saw it whenever you went.
Yep.
It's like lit up, and that's who we are, you know. And then my dad's wife moved to El Salvador as well without looking back, and she's from Nayarit, Mexico. So we have Mexican blood in the kitchen, that Mexican spirit, and providing the best Mexican food here in San Salvador, and working hard to be the best restaurant in San Salvador.
Wow. I'm looking forward to trying it out.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we serve a little bit of a different Mexican food than what's traditionally known here in El Salvador.
Is
Here
it
it's
like a
more-
fusion?
It's like a fusion, and here it's more fast food, like tacos, burritos, nachos, and stuff. But I mean, we have great dishes. We have a great steak. It comes with a plantain pudding, tamarindo sauce on top, beef short rib. We have octopus. We have shrimp. A lot of different plates, and Mexican enchiladas. So a lot of great dishes that you guys will enjoy.
Okay. And tell us about the hotel.
Hotel Martinez is located on Surf City 2. It's a world-class surfing destination with first-class hospitality. We're always personally there, and we make sure that it's your home away from home. And our slogan there is disconnect to reconnect. I mean, you're surrounded by coconut trees, by nature, by toucans, by big iguanas. You know, it's a tropical paradise on a pristine beach location, and we just make it your home away from home.
I feel like we got to check that out too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Getting ideas.
Yeah. Guys, I can't tell you how amazing this conversation was and how grateful we are for you guys joining us over here and telling us your story. It was incredible. I'm still amazed at how wise both of you are. Yeah, it was just great. What do you think, Jordan?
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you coming on the show. And we have some hotels and restaurants or one hotel and one restaurant to check out now.
No, absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for having us. It's been a beautiful conversation to, have with you guys, get to know you guys. We met, accidentally at that event,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. It was awesome to be able to come here, and hopefully we can sit back down the future and see how everybody's evolved, how everybody's grown, and how El Salvador continues to lead the way and be that shining city on top of the hill.
Yeah, I see already plenty of opportunities to collaborate. So, I look forward to the future.
Me too. Me too. The future looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Pleasure, guys.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care, everyone. Peace.